All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Sunday, February 2nd. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. Clayton, uh, we got a horrific mutation at the top of the box office. I think we have learned a lot about society from how well this number one movie has performed, and we're going to break it down. We are going to give everyone a state of humanity on today's BO Boys, and I'm excited to do that. Before we do a plow, Clayton, how are you feeling? I know you've had a rough weekend. You've had some ups and downs this weekend. How are you feeling right now on mic? Are you going to be able to pull this off today?
I'll be able to pull this off. I got the poison out. I think I'm good.
Okay. So this was a real. You had a real. We're going to talk about a body horror movie, number one, and you had some body horror issues of your own this weekend.
Yeah, I was vomiting.
Wow. All right. All right. I mean, listen, we'll see if that affects the show today. And if it does, great. It'll add a new wrinkle and people are going to love it. So, Clayton, can you give us a post body horror for Clayton weekend plow for the box office weekend of Friday, January 31st?
Number one, Dogman made $36 million in its first weekend of release. Number two, another newbie, Companion, made $9.5 million in its first weekend. Number three, Mufasa, The Lion King, made $6.1 million, down 29%. It lost 240 theaters. It's at $229.5 million in its seventh weekend. Number four, One of Them Days, made $6 million, down 25%. It lost 369 theaters. It's at $34.4 million in its third weekend. Number five, Flight Risk, made $5.6 million, down 52%. No theater change. It's at $20.9 million in its second weekend of release. And that is your top five.
Wow. So, Flight Risk holding better than I think either of us thought. We were predicting a possible Morbius drop, a 70% drop, and that didn't happen. I mean, Flight Risk only dropped 52% for the weekend. So,
Mm-hmm.
this movie is going to do okay for what it is. Um the Mark Wahlberg being bald for this movie thing. Right now, the way the box office for Flight Risk is going, do you feel that this pushes Mark Wahlberg's head of hair in one or the other direction for his next film? Is this a sign that he should stay shaved? Should Wahlberg stay shaved, or should Wahlberg be a grower again? What do you think based
Oh,
on these two
no.
weekends of Flight Risk?
Oh, my God. You can't continue to play bald if what you're going to get from it is a 52% drop. Number five, your second weekend, and only $20.9 million. That's no reason to go bald.
Okay, so he's
That's
got to
not
be a
success.
grower.
No, no, he's got to be a grower.
I mean, do you think I don't think we've ever seen Mark Wahlberg with long caveman or 80s rock star style hair. Does the performance of Flight Risk mean he should go so far the other way that we're talking hair to the buttocks in his
Pat,
next movie?
he was in a movie called Rockstar,
You're right, of course. The
and he had long
wannabe who
hair,
got to be. Yes. Right. 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 Right.
which was
Right.
not a hit.
Yeah. So okay, so between Rockstar and Flight Risk, it does let us know that Mark Wahlberg's hair should be not bald, but should be cleanly cropped,
It should be, yeah, high and tight.
high and tight. Okay. Okay, so he's not a Telly Savalas. He's
Mm-mm.
not our modern day Telly Savalas.
No.
No. Okay. I mean, it's good to experiment so that you know these things about yourself. And Mark Wahlberg now could clearly go to his agent and say, I am not the modern day Telly Savalas.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Before we get into the top two movies, do you just want to point this out that I've noticed? Mufasa number 3 is at 229.5 million total. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is now at number 6, is at $230.5 million domestic total. You know, Sonic 3 and Mufasa opened on the same day back in December. Sonic 3 won the weekend, but now Mufasa is just about $1 million away domestic total. Um, is this, if you're the Sonic camp and next weekend it looks like Mufasa will probably overtake Sonic in the total domestic, just based on where they are and how much they're making right now. Is this a disappointment for Sonic, for Shadow, for that whole crew, that in the end they're not going to outgross Mufasa after beating their ass in the opening weekend? You don't think so?
No, no, because we're talking about Mufasa is a prequel to a billion-dollar baby,
Hmm.
and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a lower I don't wanna say lower tier, but the expectations are not as high. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is a grand success for a 3rd movie in a franchise,
Hmm.
and Mufasa is still a disappointment at this number. So, I mean, yeah, would Sonic 3 like to have beaten it consistently and put its would Shadow like to have its foot on Mufasa's neck? We'd all like to see that,
Right.
but that's just not the case. That's not what was gonna happen.
Hmm.
And the fact that they're even this close means Mufasa is the one that has not performed.
So for you, the fact that they are in spitting distance, that Sonic could legitimately spit and it would hit Mufasa, or Mufasa could spit and it would hit Sonic. The spitting distance goes both ways. You think that is more of a problem for Mufasa and a victory. It's a victory for Sonic to be able to be spat on by Mufasa.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, next weekend we're probably going to get that flip flop, but they will be in spitting distance. Either one of them could spit on each other, and
Yeah.
that's yeah. You're right. That's a win for Sonic to be able to be spit on
And
that
isn't
way.
this the highest grossing, of domestically of all of the Sonic movies?
I think so because I don't think that any of the other Sonic movies hit 200 domestic total. I'm checking that now, but I'm going to guess that Sonic 1 got to 148 million, but of course that was COVID affected. That movie did open and would have had more runway if it was not for the COVID-19 novel coronavirus. And then Sonic 2 made 190 million. So yeah, this is by far the biggest of the three Sonic movies.
Did you call it the noble virus?
The no,
Or were you
no
trying to say
novel.
novel virus?
No,
Yeah, okay.
I was saying novel. And then I said
Yeah,
novel.
yeah.
And
Oh,
some can
okay.
misconstrue that as noble.
Yeah.
Um,
I was
but
gonna say that's a very odd take.
it is there are a lot of takes about COVID, and even on the most extreme ends, there has not been a take where the virus itself is noble.
No, no,
And to be clear, I'm not making that take. I
no.
was trying to say novel, and I ended up saying novel, and it was misconstrued as noble. But
Mhm.
I would like to see if anyone out there, and if there is that take, email us theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. If you could find the take where someone has argued it is a noble virus.
Yeah, what's so
Uh,
noble about COVID-19? That's what we wanna know,
that's
if
what
you
we
can
will,
find it, and it
if you
doesn't
could
have to
find
be
that
your
take.
take. You
No.
could you could find a take online and regurgitate it.
Yeah, yeah, and there are not a lot of shows that right now are asking listeners to go out and find COVID takes to send them in 2025.
Yeah.
So we are in rarefied air there.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, the first Sonic movie, if it were not for the novel coronavirus, would have
No.
made more than 148 million.
Yeah.
And that it was not, it's definitely not a noble act of COVID to have cut short Sonic's original domestic run. That is not noble. So that could not be part of this argument.
And then, Pat, what did the second one make domestically?
190 million.
I mean, so there you go. This is a
It's huge.
franchise that is only getting stronger. It's international, I mean, altogether, worldwide, 462.5. I mean, this is almost a half a billion-dollar baby here.
Yeah.
I mean, solid franchise. I mean, this is
Solid.
great. I mean, the Sonic the Hedgehog 4, we're looking at Kung Fu Panda situation here, where it's just
Yeah.
gonna be, you know, maybe even stronger. Who knows?
Yeah. We've seen Sonic movies open in the spring, the first two. We've now seen a Sonic movie open in the Christmas corridor. December.
Summer. Are you asking is summer next?
Is summer next? Is Sonic 4 a June? I mean, is it a Father's Day Pixar spot movie? Does Sonic go that far? And it's like we were in spitting distance of Mufasa. Do they challenge Disney by going after the typical June, 15th ish Father's Day Pixar release weekend?
Ooh, that's a
Is that
great
too
question because
much?
I think it's too much because I just don't see this being a franchise for fathers. I
Okay.
guess maybe fathers and sons. The Pixar thing is always because they're written by men who are going through midlife crisis,
Right.
and so that's why they're always such catnip to, these Pixar perverts.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
I think Sonic the Hedgehog has more of a fun vibe
Right.
and is not what, sad dads are looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Sad dads want a Pixar movie that's about mortality or about, whether you should leave your wife and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. That's what Pixar writers are thinking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could see a Sonic movie that opens in either Memorial Day weekend. I could
Mhm.
absolutely see that. I mean, we saw Garfield open Memorial Day weekend last year, and obviously Garfield didn't do that great, but Sonic could really open huge on a Memorial Day. Or Sonic 4 being that first big release in August, the Guardians of the Galaxy type spot where it's the last giant release of the summer and it plays through August. I could absolutely see that for Sonic 4.
Yeah, it'd be great to see one of these open when the kids aren't in school.
Yes, yes, and I mean, we did have that with the Christmas Corridor, but to have that for a month straight,
Yeah.
would be interesting, and I do like the idea of a franchise just bopping around the schedule.
Yeah, right? Yeah, not sticking to this is our month
Right, right.
because it shows that people will go whenever it comes out.
Yes, it's a real flex by Sonic if he now moves to the summer. It's a and I don't know if when they change from the Sonic with teeth to this Sonic, I don't know what the genital situation is, but it's a real dick wagon move if
Mhm.
Sonic moves to the summer
Yeah.
and opens big in the summer after opening big in spring, opening big in Christmas. Now it's like whip it out. I'm a summer movie as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. We will be following that story as it develops. So let's shoot to the top. Let's move from the hedgehog to a dog man. Uh Dog Man's number one, and we knew it'd be number one, but this $36 million opening, that is huge. That is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think I said 30, you went high, you said 33.
I think I went the highest of us.
Yeah.
I think Brandon Katz of Parrot Analytics on our last episode, I think he went in the mid 20s. He kind of
Yeah,
stayed in the
25.
tracking, yeah.
Split the
Um,
difference, I think, yeah.
but what is your first thing that you think of why this movie's so overperformed? Is it simply a rats need their cheese situation and that was it? We haven't had new cheese since December, or is there something more going on? Because you know what I think is going on here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna point to Post Track here because 45% of the people who bought tickets to Dogman thought it looked fun and entertaining,
Hmm.
right? So I
Okay.
think, frankly, it just looked fun and entertaining, which is something that is very hard to come by when you look at trailers for films nowadays. Like
Mhm.
this just looked like fun.
Yeah, it looked like fun, but it also is a movie about fusing species. We talked about that on the preview episode, whether the audience would go for the fact that this movie opens up pretty early on with a grotesque surgery sequence in which the dog and the police officer are fused together as Dogman. 36 million, it is clear this country wants body horror.
Okay.
This country wants to see the most visceral, disgusting acts, whether it is a movie for adults or now we're seeing a movie for children. The kids wanted this.
Mhm.
Um, this is a big win for that genre of body horror. Does this make you afraid of what this current generation of kids are gonna do in a couple of years when they're walking the streets on their own and have access to tools and cutlery? The fact that this generation opened Dogman to 36 million. Are you worried at all as just a person roaming the streets?
No, I think they're finally getting to a point where they their tastes align with our tastes.
Mhm.
Like, I like this young generation. They seem to be more in touch with what we've always liked,
Right.
you know? I mean, I think that start them early. You
Right.
know, The Substance, speaking of The Substance, a
Yep.
movie that is body horror, which, we both seen way more, um, uh I guess, like, extreme things than that, but the fact that that movie had a mainstream presence, is Oscar nominated, is a huge step in the right direction, I think, for society, and I think to start these kids young on body horror, it's just getting them acclimated to, like, a true art form that has been pushed into the corner for so long.
Um, if you're Demi Moore and you see this opening weekend for Dogman, 36 million for a body horror kids movie, does she feel even more confident that she's about to win Best Actress at the Academy Awards
Well, I think
for
it's
The
pretty much a
Substance?
slam dunk that she's gonna win, but yeah, it only helps. It only helps because
Right.
as an actor, they're not the most secure people,
Mhm.
understandably, and so I would assume she would want as much positive sort of like reinforcement as she can get around this time. So
Right.
yeah, this is only better for her, even though I
Yeah.
do think it is a done deal at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Best Actress race this week and the up, down, down, of it, Sophia Carla Gascon, I would say is down for her tweets and all that, and tweets
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
chicks and tweets aren't Oscar votes, but I do think that she's on the down slide after, those tweets were translated,
But she does
and
have a Muslim friend though, Pat, so just keep that in mind.
was that a tweet of hers that
Oh, in her
or in her
apologies, she
statement?
said that she has a Muslim friend, so that should clear everything up.
Okay, alright. I would still say in the aggregate, she's on the down from this past week in the Oscar race.
Even with the fact that she is friends with okay, okay.
Yeah,
And
I
they were
think
all taken out of context as well, is something she also said, that all of those tweets were taken out of context. So keep in mind the context and the Muslim friend, and you still think she's down.
I would say she is down. I would say Amelia
Okay.
Perez is down. Um, I can't think of anything else for any of the other best actresses, but I would say you got Amelia Perez's tweets is a down, but Dogman is an up for Demi Moore.
Mhm.
So I agree. I love it. I'm not scared of these kids. And it's one of those things where that's what's great about movies is get it out of your system this way. Let these kids go to a movie, watch a dog and a man be fused together uh in a cartoon, and they get it out of their system that way rather than, you know, they got their own dogs, they got their own, uncles sleeping on a couch, and the kids want to fuse them together that way. I think the fact that they saw it happen in Dogman means they won't have the need to do that in real life. They're more likely to just be like, "Oh, I saw it, I laughed at it, I enjoyed that body horror. I don't have to sew my own dog to a sleeping relative
Mhm.
myself."
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, you'll have a few kids who'll see Dogman and they'll do it. You'll have a few. It's going to happen. Don't get alarmed. You'll read a couple of news stories. But I think overall, there are more kids who would have done it if not for Dogman and
Yeah.
getting to see it this weekend. That's my take on this. Um,
So this seems to be because Captain Underpants came out, performed well. This is performing better than Captain Underpants.
mhm.
I mean, I do think it has, a better hook. I mean, Captain Underpants was, I think, just a child in underwear,
Yep. Which
and
has
this
some
is
issues. Yeah.
which has some issues nowadays, especially. And I think this is more palatable. Is a man and a dog being fused together.
Yep.
Uh, but there was a lot of people who went. to this movie because of the fact that this was a part of a series of graphic novels
Mhm.
that they like. So this is a IP,
Yep.
and yeah, I mean this is good, and this is DreamWorks, correct?
Yep, this DreamWorks is Universal. I mean, we could talk about they did a great job. You know, you take a look at Anthony D is for Dogman, D.
Hmm.
Alessandro, his must read every Sunday, Sunday right through. Uh he did a little uh section on what Universal did in the campaign, and they really pushed this movie. That's the thing, is they knew they had a potential big hit, but you're not going to have a hit unless people know that it's out, unless people see it plastered everywhere, especially for a kids movie. I think you really got to you got to bash these kids over the head with advertising, not with,
Mhm, mhm.
you know, bash kids over the head with advertising. You have to
Yeah.
do it. And Universal did it. They bashed these kids over the head. The trailer ran on Wild Robot, Moana 2, Sonic 3, uh, TV spots throughout Christmas and Thanksgiving. Here's an interesting one they mentioned. It was all over the National Dog Show telecast. So kudos to those dogs bringing in enough of an audience where the Dogman ads made a difference.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's yeah. It's funny though, I'll be honest with you, I did not see a commercial for this ever. And
well,
I think that is fine because I'm not the audience for it.
right. Well,
But
did you watch any of these shows, Clayton? Did you watch the National Dog Show over the holidays? Did you
I did
watch
not.
that?
No, I did not.
Did you watch any New Year's Eve programming? That is apparently it was all over New Year's Eve programming. Did you watch any New
It
Year's Eve
was on in
programming?
the background, but I don't think I was paying attention to it.
Okay, you were otherwise occupied
Yeah,
during New Year's Eve. Did you watch in the premieres of these shows, The Traitors, The Bachelor, Deal or No Deal Island, Price is Right at Night? That sounds interesting. Or Raid the Cage. Did you watch any of those shows? Did you watch Price is Right at Night? Apparently Dogman was all over Price is Right at Night.
I did not.
What do you think Price is Right at Night was? Is it just the regular Price is Right show aired in prime time, or do you think it was a sort of like
N-
Playboy After Dark?
Yeah, I think it's nudie stuff.
Okay, like the guests, if they
If they're
guess
coming
the
on
price,
down, they're flopping.
right,
They're
right,
flopping around.
and it's not guessing the price of a toaster; it's like guessing the price of a Sybian and a
Yeah, yeah,
dildo
like sex
machine.
toys and stuff, yeah.
Right, Price is Right at Night is all guessing the price of sex toys, which I feel
Like
like there's
dildo
a
machines.
and dildo machines, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, and Drew Carey was probably in a full leather daddy outfit while hosting the show.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Um, who knows what he had the are they still called the Barker's Beauties on Price is Right? Do you think they still call them the Barker's Beauties?
I doubt it. During daytime, I don't think I think they're called the, Drew's Smart Ladies.
Yeah, but that's during the daytime. Price is Right at night. Leather Daddy Drew Carey, he's got the Barker's Beauties wheeling out the dildo machines
Yeah,
for naked people to guess the price on. And this is on
yeah,
CBS though.
yeah, the
And
Tiffany
apparently,
Network.
yeah. Um, apparently Dogman advertisements really drove audience during this Price is Right at night. So you didn't see any of these shows yourself, right? Raid the Cage, you didn't see. Is that a dog show, Raid the Cage?
That's a great question, it might be.
Um, I feel like it would make sense, but then is that a reality show about unleashing dogs?
We know
Raid
it
the
was Room you remember Room Raiders on MTV?
Oh yes, yeah.
I think it's dogs going into other dogs' cages and trying to figure out whether they wanna hump them or not.
Okay. I mean, that's God, a show like that, that's a huge crossover with Dogman.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, really, really smart campaign, and it was also on various sporting events. Um, And then, okay, here's one. On January 20th, so just about a week before it opens, Dogman was integrated into Food Network's Kid Baking Championship with a full takeover that included a film-themed baking challenge sets, custom animation. So that's the one. That one really could have drove this higher than normal Dogman audience, is this kids baking championship.
Yes, that's true.
Um,
Also did
and
not
I
watch.
did not watch, which is good. That would have been a cause for alarm if I said kids baking championship and you said yes. I watched every second of that twice.
Mhm.
So I am glad to hear you did not watch Kids Baking Championship, but I'm glad that Dogman did a full takeover
Yeah.
and force these kids who are already being forced by their parents to appear on a televised baking show, that then Universal forced these kids to, I guess, like dress up in Dogman costumes while they baked um, on television because their parents said that they have to.
Well, it was martial law.
Yeah, yeah.
Dogman enforced martial law and took over the baking show.
Oh wow. Okay. So you think this is, well, he is a law enforcement officer, this dog man.
Yeah.
He's half dog and he's half cop.
Yes.
Um so okay, you think it was the kids who were on the Kids Baking Championship on the Food Network. They didn't even know that there would be a Dog Man brand tie-in. That
Until
Dog Man.
martial law was declared.
Right. So human beings in dog costumes who were real police officers stormed in and forced these kids to be part of an IP cross promotion.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow. Um I now I'm interested. I still don't know if I will see Dogman the movie, but I do want to see clips of this martial law takeover of this kids baking championship.
Yeah.
Because that sounds fascinating. So yeah, I mean, congrats to Universal on knowing what they had here and just going full bore into promotion. Martial law takeovers and Price is Right porno edition commercials. I mean, that's huge.
And this is DreamWorks Animation's third consecutive number 1 debut after Kung Fu Panda 4 and The Wild Robot, and it's the
Wow.
26th, title to open at number 1 stateside.
Wow. Yeah, Universal just overall just steadily kind of the best movie studio there is.
Mhm.
Disney's the biggest, and therefore you look every year, they've released the most hits by default. But just Universal, they did Oppenheimer, the Wild, I mean, every year they got their Jurassic movies.
Yeah.
DreamWorks is chugging along. They'll do their horror movies. They are just the the studio that we want all studios to be.
Yeah.
Um, so great to see that. And Wild Robot will probably win Best Picture at the Oscars, and as we've said, should of course bring Art the Clown up.
You mean
Uh,
best animated feature.
yes, Best Animated Feature. Yeah. Um,
It might be Flow, though, Pat. It
it
it might be Flow.
it could be Flow. We've got to, we will have an Oscar edition of this show in a couple of weeks, and we will
Mhm.
really just go nuts yelling at each other about this Flow movie, and I'm excited to do that.
Yeah.
Um, Both of us will not have seen the film, but we will have strong opinions on it that will be
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything else that you want to add about this Dogman? What does this do for Pete Davidson? He plays the cat who's the villain. I've heard that he's got a pretty outsized part in this movie. And by that I mean role. He has an outsized role in the
Yeah.
movie. I wasn't trying to be crude there by saying outsized part.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think this does for Pete Davidson, if anything, heading into SNL 50?
Absolutely nothing. The kids are so inoculated to actors doing voices in cartoons. It makes no difference. Like, every cartoon that is released has a big name actor doing the voices, and it means nothing for anybody.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, other than more paychecks for them possibly down the road, but for notoriety or, people wanting them, it does nothing.
Okay.
Like, I
Okay.
I
So
I honestly think that cartoons do nothing for actors other than padding their, bank accounts, which is great for them.
yeah.
They can do this stuff in sweatpants, which is gret. But,
Other
no.
than I think we've talked about the big exception is the Shrek franchise. I think Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz, those count as star vehicles for them. But otherwise,
But
yeah.
that was in the beginning of when that had to be. Now every cartoon had to have a major actor being the voices, which, that started with those Disney movies with, when you got Robin Williams as the genie. People forget that was a
That's the
huge
big one.
deal to
Right.
get a name actor who was as popular as Robin Williams to do the voice of a cartoon.
Right.
That was nuts. And then everything became, after that, not directly after that, but everything sort of became, okay, you know, let's get Jonathan Taylor Thomas to play this lion cub,
Right. Right.
in Lion King. That's when the thing started where you could have just gotten a random kid.
Right. And for listeners now, for the wannabe O boys, wannabe O girls, wannabe O people
People.
who are listening right now and saying to themselves, but Jonathan Taylor Thomas, that's not a big star. We're talking 1993, 94. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was a giant star. Go back, go to your local library, go into the microfiche, look at these Tiger Beat magazine
Yes.
covers. And it is Jonathan Taylor Thomas and the New Kids on the Block. But I think at that point they were on the wane. He is on Tiger Beat after Tiger Beat after Tiger Beat after Tiger Beat, months and months and months and months in that time period. Go look up the microfiche yourself.
Mhm.
At that time, that is a huge get
Yeah.
for him to be a voice in that movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Pete Davidson, though, he's now in a period. It's more of a David Spade Emperor's New Groove situation where I'm sure it's a nice payday,
Uh-huh.
you know, allowed him to pay for, an elevator in his mansion or whatever he's got going on. But it doesn't make him a bigger star
No.
because of it. Yeah.
No.
Um, so Dogman number one. Let's move to the number two movie this weekend, which uh we both saw. We saw this film together. We had an outing with past and future guests and co-host Aaron Rose Foley Chan. We all saw this together and we saw Companion. We went
Mhm.
and saw Companion in our favorite theater, AMC Lincoln, best theater in the country. Um, and you let me do. What did you think of this movie? We're not critics, huh? But
Huh?
yeah. What did you think of
Um,
Companion?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it.
Yeah.
Um, you did make that known immediately after the movie.
Mhm.
Uh, I would have loved. And it was not a particularly packed showing on Thursday night. It was pretty empty. Um, I would have loved if there had been a wannabe oh boy, wannabe oh girl, or wannabe oh person
Person.
who overheard our post companion back and forth because it was great radio, but the mics weren't on.
Yes.
And I'll say I thought this movie was fine. I slept through probably 15 minutes of the first act. Um,
Mhm.
and you were so vehemently against this movie afterwards that it did turn into great radio, which was a shouting match.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I just wish the mics were on or there was listeners who were around who could, they're about to shuffle out and then they're stopped dead in their tracks because they're saying, is that Pat and Clayton, the BO boys, yelling at each other in the
Mhm.
balcony of this Dolby Cinema for a Thursday late screening of Companion?
It was very Siskel and Ebert of us.
Yes, we were in the balcony much like Siskel and Ebert, just screaming at each other.
Well, and then a large security, a large member of the security staff came and said, "Sorry, the balcony's closed."
That did happen. That did happen. We were tossed out of the theater,
Yeah.
much like Siskel and Ebert were week after week. The end of their shows would always end with a security staff member throwing them out of their own balcony studio.
Mm-hmm.
We were asked to leave.
Yeah.
And she's listening to this right now, and I know Erin, it did get to the point where she was uncomfortable at how we were going at it over Companion. The volume got to her for sure. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry she has to relive this right now as she listens. I hope she is not listening while like using a hot pan or running in a alongside a dangerous wooded path and this throws her. But yeah, that was, it was uncomfortable and I loved it because it
Well,
was great radio.
well, I apologize to her because I inadvertently was rude to her when I was trying to be rude to you.
Yes,
And
yes.
I have not apologized to you, and I will not apologize to you. But that I think is the worst thing about it, is that I made somebody uncomfortable when I was really just trying to attack you,
Yes, yes, and I apologize to nobody, um,
because
but
that's who you are.
that's who I am, and that's why I am where I am, but and you take that however you want, but yeah, you definitely were aiming for me and you missed. You
Mhm.
missed. She got some
Yeah.
shrapnel,
Yeah.
um, and I knew that. I knew it was directed at me.
Yeah.
As it should be, because that's where the tension is, that's where the anger is, and it's great radio. Again, my one regret in this public yelling match after a movie that I thought was fine at best is I wish the mics were going.
Yeah.
I wish the
Well, we
mics
should
were going.
always roll. We should always just roll right after in
Yeah,
case.
yeah,
Now, if I've had my nap during the movie, I probably wouldn't be as riled up. I would have been like, the movie, I did not like the movie, but I'm not angry about it, would probably have been my reaction, like Venom 3.
yeah.
Now, interesting here in post track. I just have to mention this because Anthony Diaz for Dogman did not say anything more about this, but this movie got, okay, women under 25 who showed up at 17% gave this movie a 91% grade.
Wow.
Men over 25 came at 37%, gave it an 80%. Women
Mhm,
over 25 uh, were at 32% and graded it at 85%. Here's what's interesting. Men
mhm.
under 25 came at 14% and rated this pick 14%. Men
So
under 25 hated this film.
hated it. They
Like,
went full
hated it.
men on film, hated it. These were men on film.
Yeah.
These men under 25 seeing Companion hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it 2 snaps down. That I mean, having seen the film, which you didn't like,
Yeah.
but as part of that discussion, and we're not critics, huh?
Huh.
But talking about what that movie's point of view is, I could see men under 25 not liking it because even though Jack Quaid is not a man under 25, is the character he played someone that men under 25 would identify with as themselves and therefore they felt attacked? Is that what you think
Yeah,
happened here?
he is how I think every man under 25 thinks that everybody looks at them as a Jack Quaid person.
As an
Like,
incel. I mean, let's just say
yeah,
it.
absolutely, yes, yes. I
Let's
think
call an
there's
incel an incel, and that was the character. Yeah.
I think there's a level of men under 25 not wanting to see another movie written and directed by a guy telling them how terrible they are. I think that's probably something that they're not interested in.
Right.
You know
They
what I
they don't
mean?
want to see incels uh depicted in the way that Companion did, which is as a villain. They want to see incels as heroes. They want to see, and we've talked about this project over the years. They want to see a more like a National Lampoon's incels, where the incels are celebrated, like the Revenge of the Nerds in the '80s
Mhm.
situation. That is what incels, these men under 25, want. And Companion is another movie where no, we're going to say we don't like incels. And so the incels didn't like that.
Interestingly enough, too, when you're looking at these why people saw this movie, 43% saw it because it was a horror movie. 26% bought tickets because it's a Sophie Thatcher movie.
Wow.
That is interesting because Sophie Thatcher obviously was in Heretic earlier in the
Mhm.
year, or last
Yep.
year actually, because it's early
Yep.
in the year right now. Um, Also Yellow Jackets, she's one of the stars of Yellow Jackets, which was and maybe is still a big show for Showtime, but,
For Showtime, probably is a big show. In the grand scheme of things, probably is not a big show.
Yellow
But
Jackets is no Yellowstone.
yes, Yellow Jackets is no Yellowstone for sure.
But, interesting that this is who went to see that movie, but also it sort of pans out when you look at who actually went to see this movie and enjoyed it, and that seems to be the demo for something like Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
So, this I think had very limited appeal other than the fact that it was going to be a horror movie.
Yeah. And it made, what did it make? 9.5 million
Nine and a
opening
half.
weekend? 9.5, so a little under what Barbarian did, though Barbarian was a much smaller feeling movie when that came out. That was a big overperformer. I would say Companion got a little bit more of a promotional push than Disney gave Barbarian, at least before it came out.
Yeah.
And I think the issue here, and 9.5, according to Anthony D, is for Dogman D'Alessandro. The budget's low enough that if this thing gets itself to 30 million, it's going to be profitable. All that. It's not a highly budgeted movie, but I think it doesn't make uh it didn't overperform because in the end, there's not a villain that people are super interested in here. And villains are what drive horror. You look at Megan, it's a fun, the villain is the star type of movie, and that opens to 30 plus million. And I think with
Mhm.
Companion, there's a twist early on, so they kind of don't, even though the second trailer gives it away, they don't really have the advertising focusing on the villain because they kind of want it to be a surprise. But then, Jack Quaid is an incel villain, and that's not a big mover of tickets. So I think that's the
Yeah.
issue here, is that there's not a cool or scary villain, and the young men don't want to see. They're incel sympathetic, and so they didn't want to see that.
Mhm.
Um,
Y Yeah, I don't have much hope for this movie having any legs,
mhm.
honestly. I mean, I think it'll drop pretty badly the next weekend. I just don't I think anybody who was interested in seeing this movie has seen it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I think you've got, we'll
And
talk about
it's not Valentine's Day viewing.
it's I mean, it is and it isn't, but it mostly isn't, you know. Um,
It isn't.
it isn't because in the end it's about, yeah, it's not. Whereas, and we'll talk about it on a preview episode, and because we saw the trailer for this before Companion, I think that Hard Eyes movie could be, it's not going to be Megan or something like that, but I do think it's got who the villain is. The villain's got a cool look, and that feels like it is a Valentine's movie. Like I think that has a higher upside than Companion because it just seems easier to market in a way that Companion, you kind of have to like hold back on promoting everything that's in the movie.
Mhm.
Um, so Jack Quaid, it's a solid, he's opens a movie to 9.5 million in the horror genre, like reliable, shows up on time, all that stuff. But
Proud of being a nepo baby.
proud to be he's one of the nepo babies that people say, oh well, we like him. He's a nepo baby that we like enough.
Well,
But
no, he's proud of it. He's one of those ones who's like, "I'm proud of it."
and he's Dennis, not Randy, right?
He's Dennis.
He's Dennis. Is there a child of Randy Quaid that is potentially going to break into movies that we know of?
Uh,
Is any of Randy Quaid's children a growing concern?
Break into movies, probably not. Break into a drugstore after hours, maybe.
Right,
If he has a kid.
right. Um, would a Randy Quaid child, after being arrested for breaking into a CVS, do you think they would to the judge say, I'm a proud nepo baby?
Probably.
Probably. And they should be. I mean, listen,
Randy's
Randy
my daddy.
I mean, whatever he's done and said these years, and I haven't kept a record of it. Uh All-time great performance in Kingpin and the Christmas Vacation. And so Randy
Oh, Last
Quaid,
Detail.
Last Detail, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's his one Oscar nominated performance, which was great, is that's how great his career was, is that I would have it as his third best performance after
Mhm.
Kingpin and Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
So yeah, his if one of his children, steal a bunch of fentanyl or whatever they do, and or they may not. We don't know these kids, but if they do, I think tell the judge I'm a proud nepo baby of Randy Quaid.
Yeah.
Um, so Jack Quaid is Dennis Quaid's son. Is Jack Quaid maybe in danger of getting a little pigeonholed here?
Well, he's got Novocaine. I mean, this was my take on him is that he's either a nice guy who's actually a nice guy or a nice guy that's not a nice guy, and those are
Mm,
his 2 speeds.
yeah.
So, I I don't dislike him necessarily, but
Hmm.
he's not a guy that I'd be like, "He's in that movie, I'm gonna see it."
Yeah. He doesn't have and we have established his dad is Dennis Quaid. He doesn't have what Dennis Quaid had in the 80s, which is true movie star charisma,
No.
where this is a leading man. He's not a leading man with a chin.
No.
He he's not that, and I don't think he'll ever morph into that, but there is an age where it becomes tough to still play the incel. Incels have an age limit on screen, at least. I mean,
Yeah.
on Earth, I'm sure they
Sky's the
reign.
limit.
Sky's the limit. You could die a 90-year-old incel for sure. But I think on screen, incels do have an age limit, and I think he's getting near it. I think he's maybe only got a couple of years of playing these nice guys who turn out to be incels before he's just too old for that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I don't think this is going to happen. His move would be obviously, can he become Tom Hanks? Which, of course, he's not going to be, but in the sense of like Tom Hanks in the 80s was playing the nice guy, and then can you level up to being a real movie star? Jack Quaid's not going to be that, and I don't think Tom Hanks in the 80s played any incels, right?
No.
Which it wouldn't have been a term then, but I'm sure there were comps to incels. But yeah, I don't think all to say, yeah, Jack Quaid has got to figure out, I think, a non-incel path soon, because that well is going to dry up in the next couple of years.
Yes.
So yeah, that is, I would say, anything else you have to say about Companion? Do you need to let off any more steam and yell, or do you get it all out of your system at that Dolby balcony?
No, I'm good.
You're good. So email us, theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. Uh, Listen, if you want to yell about Companion, all caps, go for it. Go for it. Theboboyspodcast at gmail.com. We want to know what you think of these movies, boots on the ground reporting. So email us there. Clayton, you put out a call a few episodes ago for reviews on our Apple Podcast, 5-star
Mhm.
reviews, write a little something. Last episode, you read a bunch of new reviews that we got. Just got another one that I think, would you like to do the honors of reading this new 5-star review that we got on Apple Podcasts?
Um, let's see, can I pull it up in time?
Well, I'll read it right now and then you could comment on it. So that we got a 5-star review from Yellow GQ, uh, subject best show on web. And then it said, F it, it's a raw feed, and these guys are off the hook. Best show on the web. I love that descriptor of us.
Mhm.
It it feels it feels like a title we would have gotten in 2012. Best
Yeah.
show on the web, like we were featured on Web Junk 20.
Mhm.
And I love still thinking of us as a show on the web rather than a
Yeah.
podcast. I love it.
Yeah. I love that
Um,
vernacular for sure.
and F it, we're off the hook. Also off the
Mhm.
hook is uh it does feel like from a different time, but a time that I would enjoy visiting when we
It's
would
a
be
better
off the
time.
hook. Yeah. We would be a show on the web and we would be off the hook.
Mhm.
So go to Apple Podcasts, give us your 5-star review, and we will read them on the show.
Yeah.
Especially if you call us best show on the web. It's that was great. So thank you to that listener, Yellow GQ.
Mhm.
And of course, follow us on social media at the BO Boys Pod on Instagram, on TikTok, still on Twitter X. Who knows if we're going to be going to other social media realms? We will check in with wannabe VP of interns Christopher about that. So stay tuned for that. But it's killing it with the vertical videos. And Christopher, along with another special guest, are going to be on the next episode of the BO Boys talking about their Sundance experience. Christopher went to Sundance. We have another guest who also went to Sundance. So that is the next episode of the BO Boys. Christopher will be here, and we're going to hear about if any of these Sundance movies are going to be blockbusters. So that's going to be huge. And of course, we are YouTubers. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
So you've got to watch the YouTube show to get the full story and subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel, like the videos, share, all that good stuff. BO Boys YouTube network. And I think that is it. I got nothing else.
Pat, I finished, and you've said it all.
Oh, great.
Maybe too much.
All right.
There's nothing left to be said,
All right, great. I got to get out of here now. And
except for until next time. We'll
will
smell
smell
you
you
at
at
the
the
box
box
office.
office.
Nailed
Nailed
it.
it.